There have been protests too, rare in Russia, but still worrying for the Kremlin, as approval ratings for President Vladimir Putin sink to all-time lows. How concerned are you that this pandemic has dented the popularity of President Putin, perhaps irreparably?
President Putin has stated numerous times that he didn't care about his personal rating. That in politics, if you are a real statesman, you shouldn't think about your rating, because if you think only about your rating, you won't be able to take responsible decisions.
Wolf, decisions like when to ease coronavirus lockdown measures. Tonight, Moscow is having those restrictions lifted. Critics say that's because the Kremlin wants to gain popularity ahead of an important vote at the beginning of next month that could see Vladimir Putin's power extended. So maybe they do pay attention to ratings after all.
Maybe they do. All right, Matthew Chance reporting for us. Thank you. Coming up, a final emotional send-off for George Floyd.
Right
now is the time for action. Look at the crowd walking with him. It's quite the scene. Sit out of here for a second. We'll be right back.
Was that your grandfather leading armies to battle?
Was that your great aunt keeping armies alive?
That skinny, and it never works.
And then I tried Noom.
And then I tried Noom. Noom taught me how to change my habits a little by little.
They say it's based on a cognitive behavioral approach. I just say it works.
Visit Noom.com and lose the weight for good.
Today, when you bank, shop, or browse online, you're more exposed than ever to cyber criminals. That's why Norton and LifeLock are now one. Get all-in-one protection on Norton.com.
The COVID-19 pandemic is creating food insecurity on a scale not seen in decades. An estimated 54 million Americans will struggle with hunger. With 200 food banks and 60,000 meal programs, Feeding America is the largest hunger relief organization in the country. Join Morgan Stanley in supporting Feeding America and your local community food bank.
At Carvana, no matter what car you buy from us, you get the freedom of a 7-day return policy. This isn't some dealership test drive around the block. It's better. This is 7 days to put your Carvana car to the test and see if it fits your life. Load it up with a week's worth of groceries. Take the kiddos out for ice cream. Check that it has enough wiggle room in your garage. You get the time to make sure you love it. And on the 6th day, we'll reach out and make sure everything's amazing. If so, excellent. If not, swap it out for another or return it for a refund. It's that simple. Because at Carvana, your car happiness is what makes us happy.
Do you mind telling me why I'm under arrest?
We have got to ensure that there is a safe spot for journalism to tell the story, because it is a key component of how we fix this.
You want a Medicare? Did you know you may now be eligible for additional?
Step1.com.
Getting out of bed. It's time to laugh again. It's time to play outside. It's time to be together safely after so many weeks of being apart. It's time to make a splash.
Just call 800-955-5341 now to find out if you're eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan that includes additional benefits like free hearing aids, free eyeglasses, free meal delivery, and free rides to medical appointments. You may also be eligible for $0 monthly premiums, $0 deductibles, or no copays. Just call the toll-free number on your screen now to see if you qualify for additional benefits including dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drugs. There is no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare benefits review are absolutely free. Just call 800-955-5341. 800-955-5341.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and this is CNN.
This
is CNN Breaking News.
We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. I'm Will Blitzer in the Situation Room. We're following breaking news. On the final farewell to George Floyd as he is being laid to rest in Houston tonight after a funeral procession and a very moving memorial service. Family, friends, and officials making new appeals for racial justice and police reform. Some 15 days after Floyd took his last breaths in Minneapolis with an officer's bead on his neck. The outrage and hope for change playing out in the streets once again tonight with new protests, I should say, in New York City. You can see those going on right now. This and more videos are emerging of police confrontations with African-American men, including a fatal arrest in Austin, Texas last year. A man in custody crying out, "I can't breathe," just as Floyd did. Also tonight, many top Republicans are simply dodging questions. President Trump is pushing a wild conspiracy theory about a 75-year-old protester who was shoved by police in Buffalo, New York. Mr. Trump suggesting without any evidence at all that the man was part of a setup. First, let's go to CNN's Omar Jimenez in Houston for us. Omar, we've been watching a very, very moving final farewell to George Floyd.
That's right, Wolf. We've gone from Minnesota to North Carolina and now here to Houston, Texas. The final goodbye in what has been a series of goodbyes playing out in what was a very emotional funeral service here. Of course, George Floyd is now on his way to be buried in his final resting place next to his mother, the very same mother he cried out for in his final moments a little over 2 weeks ago today. A plea for humanity in Houston.
No more hate crimes, please.
As the family of George Floyd laid their loved one to rest, but not their cause.
I will fight, because I've been fighting for him, and I will keep on fighting for him.
Floyd, who died after calling out for his mother from under a policeman's knee, has now been buried next to her.
Give us all for all of us mothers. All of us.
The families of Eric Garner, Ahmaud Arbery, and Michael Brown in Houston to show their support. And former Vice President Joe Biden sent a video message.
We cannot leave this moment thinking we can once again turn away from racism. It stings at our very soul.
This, as the attorney for one of the fired officers charged in Floyd's death, says the bystanders heard shouting at the officers to get off Floyd should have intervened.
If all these people say, why didn't my client intercede? Well, if the public is there and they're so in an uproar about this, they didn't intercede either.
George Floyd!
After 15 days of some of the largest national protests in recent history, more troubling police encounters are under scrutiny. In Austin, Texas, disturbing video just released of 40-year-old
$1 million. They wanted that law known as 50A that protects police records from getting out to the public. They want to see that repealed, among other things. Some have called for Mayor Bill de Blasio to resign. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but if I can, I want to read you the names of the families, the people here representing those 18 people who have been killed in interactions with New York police dating back to the 70s. We are hearing today from the mother of Sean Bell, the mother of Ramarley Graham, the sister and aunt of Chantel Davis, the mother of Eric Gardner, the sister of Delron Small, the mother of Amadou Diallo, the mother of Mohammed Ba, the aunt of Akai Gurley, the mother of Kamani Gray, the sister-in-law of Jason Tirado, the mother of Anthony Baez, the parents of Antonio Williams, the parents of Shahid Bassal, the mother of Kenny Lazo's son, the mother of Carlos Lopez Jr., the mother of Wasaki Trawick, the mother of Penine Torres, the sister of Clifford Glover. Clifford was shot by an NYPD officer back in 1973. He was only 10 years old. I spoke to his sister before all of this started. He told me at the time that her brother was shot. He was walking out with her father, his stepdad. They say police officers not in uniform approached them. The police said that they thought the two had been involved in some sort of robbery. She says her dad and her brother, they thought they were about to be robbed, so they ran. Her brother, Clifford, who was 10 years old, was shot in the back and he died. I asked her why she wanted to be here today, why she wanted to speak to so so many people. She told me that there were protests, there were riots in the 70s after her brother died, but nothing quite like this. She said she wanted to be here today to tell everyone who was out protesting, marching, to keep going. She said she has waited 47 years to see something like this, and she believes change might finally be on the way. Stephanie?
I think of a lot of other people who agree, Ellison. Thank you so much for sharing their names. I wish we had more time to hear their stories. I want to bring in Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the Washington Post, Eugene Robinson, and Maya Wiley, former counsel to New York City Mayor's office, as well as former chairwoman of the NY.
Law, Jared Kushner, they were just up on Capitol Hill meeting with Republican lawmakers about police reform proposals now brewing in Congress. President Trump, though, as you said, he is still in hiding and avoiding the press while tweeting out cruel comments about the 75-year-old man who was hospitalized after he was shoved by police in Buffalo. That sent a lot of Republicans running for cover up on Capitol Hill as the president continues to inflame tensions after the death of George Floyd. As one Trump campaign surrogate told me earlier today, the president is, quote, just not genuinely compassionate. With police brutality under the microscope on the same day relatives gathered in Texas for George Floyd's funeral, President Trump is lobbing grenades from his social media bunker. The president is promoting a baseless conspiracy theory about 75-year-old Martin Gugino, who was pushed to the ground by officers during a protest in Buffalo, tweeting, Buffalo protester shoved by police could be an Antifa provocateur. I watched. He fell harder than was pushed. Could be a setup.
A protester pushed by Buffalo police was appearing to use common Antifa tactics.
The president cited this thinly sourced segment on the pro-Trump TV network OANN. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called the Antifa allegation fabricated.
I mean, if there was ever a reprehensible, dumb comment, and from the President of the United States, at this moment of anguish and anger, what does he do? Pours gasoline on the fire.
Asked about the latest Trump outrage, a few Senate Republicans took issue with the tweet.
Yeah, I saw the tweet. It was a shocking thing to say, and I won't dignify it with any further comment.
While others were doing all they could to avoid our cameras.
This Buffalo protesting. Yeah, I know.
GOP Senator Marco Rubio told CNN, I didn't see it. You're telling me about it. I don't read Twitter. I only write on it. Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn said, you know, a lot of this stuff just goes over my head. And South Dakota GOP Senator John Thune added, most of us up here would rather not be political commentators on the president's tweets.
Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying there's a great thing that's happening for our country.
The president has done little to ease tensions across the U.S., laying low behind his fortress-like fencing, ever since his administration brutalized protesters for a photo op. Presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden appeared in a video at Floyd's funeral, calling for an end to police misconduct.
We cannot leave this moment thinking we can once again turn away from racism that stings at our very soul.
Even Mr. Trump's own advisors have questioned his actions, with one surrogate telling CNN the president should avoid giving an address to the nation on the subject of race, saying, quote, a speech lacking genuine compassion at any point would not help. He's just not genuinely compassionate. The president has instead seized on the wishes of some protesters to defund the police, an effort aimed at diverting money away from law enforcement agencies. The Democrats working on police reform say that's not even in their bill.
Well, because I don't think that that's the appropriate thing to do. I think what the president is seizing on is the fact that he knows his poll numbers are dropping.
The president is also being contradicted by Attorney General William Barr over why Mr. Trump ended up in the White House bunker during the demonstrations.
Things were so bad that the Secret Service recommended the president go down to the bunker.
That's not what the president told Fox.
I was there for a tiny, little short period of time, and it was much more for an inspection. There was no problem during the day.
Now, Republican senators met behind closed doors to work on their own proposals for police reform, but those GOP senators led by South Carolina's Tim Scott came out of that meeting noting they haven't come up with anything yet that is concrete in terms of those proposals. And as for the president's tweet about Martin Gugino, White House Chief of Staff was just asked about it. He also declined to comment. And as for those protests that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, our colleagues at the Pentagon are reporting tonight that members of the D.C. National Guard are testing positive for the coronavirus after being deployed to work with police officers during those demonstrations. They won't say we're at the Pentagon. or at the National Guard. As to how many, Wolf, they're saying that has to be kept secret. But some of those National Guard members are being tested positive for the coronavirus, Wolf.
Well, that's very worrisome indeed. Arjun Acosta at the White House. Thank you very much. Joining us now, the NBA Hall of Famer Charles Barkley is an analyst with our sister network TNT. Always outspoken on many issues in America. Charles, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, George Floyd was honored today with a final memorial service. What is your message to his family and indeed to all who are mourning him as he's now about to be laid to rest?
Well, not just his family, just the American public. To see a man killed on national television, it's a disgrace. I mean, this is not, and everybody don't want to make it about black and white. It's not black or white. This is just about humanity. To see a grown man die before our eyes, if you're not upset by that, if you're white, Jewish, Chinese, anything, there's something wrong with you.
You're absolutely right. Floyd's killing, as you know, has sparked a huge outcry here in the United States, indeed around the world. And we've seen 2 weeks now of protests coupled with widespread calls for reform. When you look at this moment, Charles, are you hopeful that this potentially is a significant turning point?
Oh, I'm not hopeful. What Mr. Acosta just said. If you think about it, the Democrats and the Republicans can't even talk about police reform. I mean, this is something we've been talking about ever since Kaepernick kneeled, and these clowns in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, that's the number one thing they should do before they do anything else. We need the cops. Most of the cops do a fantastic job, but instead of defunding and all this other stuff, let's just do police reform. Everybody should be on board for that, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal.
Because police reform is critical right now. You're right. Everybody agrees. They disagree on what is needed. In his eulogy for Floyd, the Reverend Al Sharpton weighed in on the controversy.
Were saying they did not see or hear the events that.
Al's apology came in Reverend Sharpton's words 4 years later when the whole world is watching. First of all, where do you stand on this?
Well, listen, Colin Kaepernick, what he did was honorable, courageous. He lost his job. If he wants to come back and play, I would be all for that. Listen, the NFL dropped the ball. They were 100% wrong. But you know what? You got to understand, 2 weeks ago, they were bribing teams to hire black coaches. So a lot has happened in 2 weeks. They want to admit they're wrong now because America is on fire. But think about it. 2 weeks ago, they were bribing NF teams just to hire black coaches. So they got a long way to go to get back in our good graces.
That's an important point as well, Charles. The President Trump, meanwhile, is retweeting calls to stop supporting the NFL as long as players are protesting. What do you say about that?
I don't talk bad about the president. I'm not a fan. I think the way he's just such a divider. He's not even came out and said, you know what they did to Mr. Floyd was wrong. That's all he had to do. He goes off on these tangents about Antifa and the protesters and the rioters. He's never come out with human decency and said, hey, we can't have a man killed on national television right before our eyes. That would be the right thing for the president of the United States. He's not the president for white America or rich America. He's the president of the United States. And you got to have some compassion. Like I say, people can say what they want to, but to see a man get kneeled on his neck for 8 minutes and 44 seconds and die right before our eyes, if that did not upset you, there's just something wrong with your human decency.
Let me ask you this, Charles. When the NFL returns, the NBA returns, Major League Baseball returns, and we all hope they will return sooner rather than later, do you anticipate more players will take a knee in solidarity?
Well, let me say this, Wolf. There's been a lot of protesting. There's been a lot of noise. It's time for us as players and the public to start doing some stuff. Hey, if you can kneel all you want to. I support any guy who wants to kneel. But we got to stop kneeling and we're worried about kneeling, because kneeling has become the big story instead of police brutality. I just want all of us as players, we got a lot of money. We got a lot of influence. It's time for us to stop worrying about what President Trump thinks and start helping our own communities. That's what we got to do, and quit worrying about kneeling and things like that.
Charles Barkley, always great to have you here in the Situation Room. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you.
And be safe out there as well. Just ahead, the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota, standing by to join us live. We'll talk about George Floyd's funeral, the continuing fallout from his death in police custody. Plus, the family of an African-American man talks to CNN about the very, very disturbing body cam video of their loved one telling police multiple times that he couldn't breathe before he fell unconscious.
I got 16.
And for a lot of white Americans to whom it may never have occurred, that the halcyon days that they think back to of the 50s or the 60s or whatever, those are days when I was growing up under Jim Crow segregation, and my parents and their friends were fighting for the right to vote. So it's the African-American experience is a crucial strain of the American existence, the American experience, and maybe more of the nation is learning a bit of that now. And if that's true, then that would be helpful going forward. But changing the culture inside those police departments, changing that warrior mentality, that us versus them mentality, the Fort Apache mentality, that's going to be really difficult in spite of the best intentions of police administrators. There are veteran cops who aren't going to like the change, and that's going to be a struggle in the months and years ahead.
It certainly is, but if you don't do something in times of struggle, then we're never going to get better. And we absolutely need to. Eugene Robinson, Maya Wiley, thank you so much. You always make us smarter when you're here. Coming up, my live interview with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Democratic plans to reinvent and reimagine policing. We've seen the impact of Floyd's death. Now it's time for action. Also, Steve Schmidt on Trump's re-election panic, aides trying to contain the damage from his handling of this new crisis. Plus, Dr. Fauci today calling COVID his worst nightmare and warning this thing is not over yet. And my special interview with radio host Charlemagne the God about the next steps to tackle inequality in America. I'm Stephanie Rule in for Ari Melver, and you are watching The Beat.
Hi, I'm Jay Farners.